It's time to catch your first fish. What's going on, everyone? It's Will from Rise and Fly, and I'm sure everyone that clicked on this video is wondering, what do we have to offer that Orvis already has? Okay, we're gonna keep it simple, covering the basics on what we think is most important when it comes to catching fish and how to actually catch your first fish. I've only been fishing for around 2.5 years, and I am far from being a pro. Obviously, I'm always trying to get better, but having that mentality on wanting to always get better will benefit you in so many different ways. So, let's get right into it, and let's get to the basics. All right, let's get started. You're gonna need a fly rod, okay? And I recommend to just go pick up a package deal. You know, they're pretty affordable. You can get one, I think, for like $280, $300. You get a fly rod, a fly reel, and fly line all together, okay? I recommend a 9'5" weight. There's various brands. I can throw a few in the description if you guys wanna go check them out, my personal opinions, but obviously a fly rod, and if you get one of those package deals, it'll come with everything you need, like the reel and the fly line, because that's just another extra expense if you're trying to buy pieces from different places. You're gonna need some leader, okay? Leader is essentially this tapered line, and I'll show you guys in a graphic right here. It's a tapered line that starts from thick, it connects to your fly line, it comes all the way down and tapers into this small, almost invisible piece of thread. It makes it virtually invisible for fish to see your fly connected to your line, okay? So you're gonna need one of those. You can pick up a 3-pack. I think they're like maybe 10, 12 bucks, okay? So you got all that. Next, I recommend picking up some tippet. So essentially, the higher the number, the smaller the tippet. Tippet is, I'll show another graphic, but it's like a line. It's just line that you connect to your leader to preserve the life of it. It can, it varies in sizes, so you can, you know, vary the length and taper down your leader even more, preserving the life of it so you essentially save more money. So if I were you guys, I would pick up 5X tippet and 4X tippet, okay? I feel like you only need those two. 5X is pretty thin still, it's durable, like it'll handle most trout streams. 4X is for more of the bigger trout streams, bigger fish. Okay, so I would just stick with the 5 to 4X range. It is really hard to know what to pick, especially when you're starting out. For me, like, I would go in a fly shop and I'm like, what the heck do I use? And it's definitely difficult. So for starters, if I were you guys, I'm gonna throw up this hatch chart in the video. Most rivers are gonna have the same bugs in each stream, okay? Some vary, there's some specific species in some other rivers, but most of the time, like, you're gonna be having the same core bugs. You know, we have your caddis pattern, your mayfly pattern, your midge pattern, like there's quite a few. Those are some core bugs. So you have your nymphs and you have your dry flies, and we're gonna only work on those two. So essentially, dry flies are a bug that will set on top of the water, replicating an adult insect that's on top of the water floating, okay? And it replicates essentially, you know, there's a lot of bugs landing on the water, they're laying their eggs or whatnot, and fish are just, they love that in the summertime, okay? That is the main food source, just rising trout all the time. If you guys see trout rising up out of the water, they're eating bugs on top, okay? And so essentially what we're doing is we're replicating what those bugs look like. So a few patterns I would choose specifically is the core staple elk hair caddis, which is mimicking an adult caddis fly, okay? Parachute Adams, which is imitating essentially it could imitate a mayfly, super small, could even be a midge, but essentially it's a mayfly pattern, and it's got a little parachute on top so you can see it. Trout just absolutely love this fly. We have our Royal Wolf. I personally love this fly because it works on essentially any trout stream, doesn't exactly resemble a bug. It resembles just bugs in general, and fish just seem to be attracted to the colors and the way it looks in the water. You know about a few of the core flies that you might need for the river. All right, let's talk about nymphs. Beaded or not beaded, they don't have to be, flies that actually go under the water, and instead of the trout rising up to get them, the trout are searching through the bugs, the aquatic bugs that are swimming to get them. Okay, so a few core patterns I would just always have in my fly box. One, the zebra midge. Okay, it's a classic. It resembles a midge, obviously it's in the name, little midge larva. I would say a rainbow warrior. Okay, it doesn't exactly resemble anything in particular. It's kind of an attractor pattern, so fish see it and they're like, they see the sparkle off that rainbow warrior and it's just game time, okay? So if nothing's eaten that day, like I always love to throw on a rainbow warrior, and it usually gets the job done. Is the prince nymph, okay? It's a classic, like an attractor pattern. It doesn't exactly resemble a certain type of bug. It can resemble various types, okay? And then I would also pick up some Frenchies and some hare's ears. All right, now you guys got all your essentials to get started and get out on the water. Let's go catch your first trout.
What's going on, guys? It's Warren from Rise and Fly. We're out on the river to teach you guys how to catch your first fish. Just a little disclaimer, there's lots of ways to do it, but this is our way that we found to be most successful, and we're just trying to show you guys it, so it should be fun. So we've arrived at the hole. The first step to, kind of figuring out what you want to use is honestly not setting up your rig at the truck. We see a lot of guys do this, they tie on the flies that they want to use the truck, but I think it's important to first get to your spot and kind of survey the water. Previous B-roll, you can see there's actually adult midges up on top of the water. They're flying around. They're indicating a really good midge hatch, which means there's also midge nymphs, so that's what we'll be throwing today. It's also very common around in Montana to throw, it's called a Pat's rubber leg. It's a stonefly imitation. Those are super common and honestly is very successful. It's one of the flies that I always use to throw in the wintertime. We just got rigged up. Just want to quickly show you what we're throwing. What's very successful for me, and a lot of guys use, is the double nymph rig, just 2 nymphs. On top we have the Pat's rubber legs imitating the stonefly like I talked about earlier. And then we have our zebra midge that we kind of customize, which is imitating a midge. Now to finally finish the rig, we have to add weight to our fly. Very, very important to make sure your flies get down to the fish, and then add a strike indicator and we'll be ready to go.
I was in the corner, drinking from the punch.
Alright guys, first thing to talk about when it comes to fishing is reading water. Now right now we're fishing kind of the tail end of winter, so we're still fishing fish that are kind of lethargic. They don't need to be in super fast water. They're not feeling stressed, so they're kind of sitting in slower moving water. This right here is honestly what a perfect example of what a good winter fishing hole looks like. As we can see, we have not white capping riffles, but we can still have a little bit of riffles, but we can also tell that the water is deep. The fish want to sit in deep, slow-moving water, and that's what's most important when it comes to winter fishing. Now we have a rod in our hand. Let's talk a little bit about casting. One, I kind of think about a clock when I'm casting, 10 and 2. So when I'm coming forward, I'm coming at 10, and then when I'm casting back, I'm coming at 2. Only using my wrist. I see a lot of guys that go in the water and they throw with their arm, but to me, I think the most successful way to cast is honestly all in the wrist. So I'm thinking 10, 2, 10, 2. And in that back cast, you should feel the rod load up and feel it kind of bend. All right, now let's kind of talk about casting in the hole. I like to cast about 45 degrees upstream of me because this will give time for my flies to sink down to the bottom, because right now the fish are sitting at the bottom. And I want to first start fishing close and then slowly, progressively work farther out into the hole. I'm just going to cast 45 degrees upstream, fishing myself close, mending my line to make sure it gets a natural drift. We want our bugs to look like real bugs in the water. Mending is a very important way of keeping a good drift. Let it come out, and then I just recast again. And we're just going to continue to repeat this process until we catch a fish.
I was in the corner,
Alright guys, now we're at the fighting portion. Honestly, it's a lot of feel. You want to give the fish some slack. But at the same time, you always want to make sure you have tension because it's super easy for them to spit the hook. How do they do that? I have no idea. Right now, this is kind of jumpy. The biggest tip for that is just to put your rod tip down. That tends to keep their head down. A lot of guys also like for retrievals, they like the strip, which is what I'm doing right now. But if you want to get a real feel for how to fight the fish, go to your reel. Go. Fish in the net. Alright guys, just caught this fish. Now let's talk about how to handle them. It's extremely important to get your hands wet. They have a slime coat that I don't really know what it's for, but it's important to them, and when you use dry hands, that tends to peel it off of them. So we want to make sure we get our hands wet. Grab him. We don't want to squeeze, we want to gently grab and let him flop out if he needs to. I also like tucking the net in my legs. This helps me kind of hold it so I have the ability to, use both my hands. So wet both of my hands. Still feeling kind of feisty. Need to pass the rubber leg. Okay. Just gently, we're not squeezing them. Just gently using it. Perfect, now we have the hook out. I like to give them a second, get a little breather in the net. And then we're just gonna release them.
I had fallen in love with you, so underrated. Something